I'll tell you why Jalen Hurts may be a hurdle and may actually be hurting the offensive coaching coordinator position search in Philadelphia.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is, in fact, your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On NFL podcast. As a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is the #1 sports podcast network. And we are glad to have you here because we are your team every day. It is Thursday, so I'm with my man Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers. We're going to run it down for you here, but first I got to tell you, it is also Crossover Thursday across the network. That's what Crossover Thursday means here, and it's presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, so here's where Chris and I are going to go. At the end of the show, we'll talk about the quarterback or not the quarterback for a couple of teams. Changes in Buffalo. Might be more changes than those folks are ready for. We'll discuss that in the middle of the show. But at the top, we won't bury the lead. We'll go with Jalen Hurts. I'm wondering if he's a hurdle. If he's a hurdle or he's actually hurting the offensive coordinator search. Philly is an organization that you either going to get fired or you're going to win a Super Bowl and you're going to get jobs. That's just the way it's been, Chris, for the last 4 offensive coordinators. 2 of them got fired. 2 of them actually went on to become head coaches. A couple of defensive coordinators did the same thing. What do you think does Justin Herbert already has a new offensive coordinator, Chris? Do you think Jalen Hurts is a hindrance and some of his limitations maybe are preventing Philadelphia from getting exactly what they want?
I don't know if Jalen Hurts should bear the weight of that, man. That's a lot when you think about it, because this guy's a Super Bowl champion. This guy's made big plays in big games. I think that I might look at you're talking about Justin Herbert. There's guys there who were able to at least stick around at least 2 years. Greg Roman just got let go after 2 years. And Justin Herbert's seen as one of those franchise guy who he doesn't have a Super Bowl to his name. He doesn't have an AFC Championship game appearance to his name. And so Kellen Moore got promoted from the Chargers. I wonder if this. I feel like it's wrong to place this blame at the feet of Jalen Hurts when he's been such a really good player for the Eagles. I think it might be just part of the consequences of, hey, look, the Eagles have benefited from moving on fast and getting on from coaches when they haven't, they got rid of Doug Peterson quickly when he got into that sideline spat with Jason Kelsey just shortly after he had just got them to a Super Bowl win, their first ever Super Bowl win. Then they cycled through coaches. They eventually landed on Nick Sirianni, and he's won them another Super Bowl. But his coordinators keep changing all the time. And so it might not be that Jalen Hurts is the problem. It might be coordinators might be like, look, it's sink or swim in Philadelphia, and I'd prefer a place that at least gave me a chance to cook a little bit. Because also, maybe A.J. Brown is a big factor in this with you when you see the images of him getting yelled at by Sirianni because he's not getting on the sideline or whatever. I don't want to put this at the feet of Jalen Hurts. I feel like that's not fair to him as a player, because I think he's been a really good player. Is he a top 5 quarterback? No, I don't think. I think that you could say hey, he's not that, but this guy makes plays. This guy gives his team chances to make plays. And he's already a Super Bowl champion. He's a big reason why you're there. So, no, I wouldn't put it on Jalen Hurts. I'd wonder about the scenarios and the situation in Philadelphia that might be, causing coaches to think about it. I've talked to coaches who have said that I don't want to go to X place because they let go of coaches real fast, and they might welcome me in real quick and say, oh, they'll give you this great opportunity, but after year 1, if you're not winning playoff games, well, you're out of here. So I think that maybe this is more about the Eagles than Jalen Hurts himself.
Sometimes too, man, when you hire a coach, and maybe this is one of the things that I wanted to open up too. When you hire a coach, if you hire him to come in and fix what somebody else has done bad or poorly, especially when it comes to a player, that always seems like a real bad thing to be chasing, because Louis DiBiase seems to think that this is a make or break year. This is a prove it year for Jalen Hurts. even though, like you said, he's Super Bowl MVP. And there was another Super Bowl where they lost, where he could have been an MVP. Here's Lou from Locked On Eagles.
I need one more year to see Jalen Hurts grow as a quarterback inside the pocket to become a more consistent player. I need to see him rebound from a down year this year with a new offensive coordinator, with a new play caller that I hope can push Jalen beyond who he is as a player right now. I want to know that if I'm going to sign up for another 4 to 5 years of Jalen Hurts as my franchise quarterback, if I'm signing up for this guy being my QB1 in his 30s, I want to believe that he can evolve into more than who he is right now.
Yeah, I get the point that Louis is trying to make, but two things can be true at the same time. Jalen Hurts needs to improve. A.J. Brown needs to stop reading books. And the Philadelphia Eagles need to show more patience and more imaginative structure and play calling in their offense. Staying right there in that division, the Dallas Cowboys have a lot of needs. Once again, it seems like they have a great team, but then all of a sudden, they don't win anything. Here's the boys from Locked On Cowboys talking about team needs.
But I've been watching a lot of draft tape over the last couple of weeks. Surprise, surprise. And every time I watch these guys, I'm like, man, I just want some tough football players. And there's a couple guys in this class, and I'll mention Mansour Delane from LSU. It's not the biggest, doesn't have the longest arms, doesn't run particularly fast. But the guy's just a football player. And it feels like when the Cowboys lost Jordan Lewis on defense last year, they really lacked any kind of attitude like that. They need to find more players like that if they ever want to be considered a tough physical football team.
Keontae Scott from Miami.
Perfect example. He had a 29-year-old rookie cornerback. Awesome. Give it to me.
He's ready to play, buddy. He's ready to play.
True.
He's aged. He's well aged.
Those boys from Cowboys. But once again, man, the Cowboys need, Chris, they got a lot of star players. They need some team building. Once again, some glue.
I agree. They need some star player. They need some. They have the star player. They need the teamwork to come together. They need the team to come together. And like you said, glue players are important. And you need a full out roster. You know, I think that sometimes teams they have they become top heavy. You know, they have great superstars at the top, but then they don't fill out the rest of the roster with depth. And then, you know, if a superstar or two goes down, they don't have, you know, that then all of a sudden those big playmakers, they don't carry the rest of the team. So that's certainly something that could be happening. And I think Dallas, you know, that they're a team that they've assembled some really talented people there, but the full, you know, built out roster, like we knew that defense was going to be a problem going into this year, and they were able to bring in Quentin Williams, but that wasn't able to solve all their issues. And you know, Trayvon Diggs is gone now. They have superstars ain't all that makes up a championship roster. You need a fully built team that's bought in on the same thing, and I think that the Cowboys are trying to figure out a lot right now.
Yeah, they are. Dallas is one of those teams when you look at their roster and then you look at their record and you go, where's the disconnect? What's wrong? It seems like they got too many good players to be sitting in that situation. All right, Chris and I are going to get into more coaching changes and changes in some places where change has not been the thing. Chris covers one team, but it's not just Baltimore and Pittsburgh. It's also Buffalo. Change has come, in the words of Otis Redding. We'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Robin Hood. Man, what if sports were traded like the markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robin Hood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy, sell your positions live all game long using your sports knowledge in the moments that matter the most. Robin Hood prediction markets changes the game. It gives it's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but I never really had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge, and now I actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play by play. You decide. Trade every play with Robin Hood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robin Hood app now to begin futures and cleared swaps. Trading involves a significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. And today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. The NFL season is in full swing, man. These playoffs are rolling along, and there's nothing like being at the game. The crowd noise, the energy, and cheering alongside other fans watching at home is great, but being in the stadium, it's different. The frustrating part has always been getting tickets, waiting in queues, dealing with logins, and watching prices change at checkout. That's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NFL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I pulled up the Game Time app to check out upcoming conference championship playoff games, and I found great ticket options almost instantly. The app is incredible. It's intuitive, browsing, comparing, and buying tickets. It took just minutes. Take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app and get back to being there live. All right, Chris Carter and Tony Wiggins here. Moving on, we're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills. You got to be very, very careful when you try to make change. Chris knows that more than anybody because the Pittsburgh Steelers are in the midst of a change that they've only made this is the fourth time in 56 years that they have made a change in coaching staff. The Buffalo Bills have to do the same thing, but Buffalo's doing it in a different way. They believe they have a window with one of the best quarterbacks in modern day history, and something needed to happen. Not saying that something didn't need to happen, but maybe the thing that they needed to do was get rid of the person that they actually kept and promoted. No telling. I see a lot of videos out there of the GM is sitting there, Brandon Beane, saying he loved Keon Coleman, and then all of a sudden yesterday the owner says, well, yeah, he didn't know, he ain't the one that wanted to draft Keon Coleman. So it's just too much of a mess for me. But listen to Joe Marino talk about some of the changes that are coming to Buffalo.
More than maybe anywhere else in the NFL, the culture, the buy-in, the camaraderie, the togetherness, the bond, the love, all of that matters more in Buffalo than maybe anywhere else. And so you have existing players, and I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of roster turnover. I'm sure of that. But you have existing players that now, some have been there for a long time, that are still critical to the foundation of your team. They're going to have to buy in, right, to the new way that's coming. You have new players that will be added to this roster. I'd imagine a good amount of new players that will be added to this roster. And they have to buy in, and it'll probably be easier for them because they're part of this new approach.
Chris, I guess by the time this is aired or has aired, Josh Allen would have given a statement at a press conference or whatever. I did see a report that Josh Allen will be a part of the hiring process and will have a say. But I never saw a report that said he was a part of the firing process, or did he have a say? Can he be a part of the hiring process, in your opinion, if they didn't even ask or consult with him about firing McDermott?
I mean, he better be. Yeah, he's the franchise guy. He's the guy that you want to be. And here's my thing, man. Even beyond Josh Allen, I'm sorry. This is a disaster for the Bills. You know, letting your coach is one thing, but then trying to levy, the fault of certain decision making, on other people. For it is so wild for the owner to come out and say Beane, he didn't want Keon Coleman. The coaches wanted. There's a whole documentary where you see Beane saying, "Oh, I really love Keon Coleman, and he's going to be this when we scouted him so much." Blah blah blah, all that stuff, man. I am taken aback, and especially for a Bills organization that from 2000 to 2016, 17 straight seasons, they didn't make the playoffs. In that time, there were 2 winning seasons. They were 9-7 in those seasons. Sean McDermott comes in, gets you in the playoffs. You do have a down year after that in 2018, but then you have made the playoffs for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight years. I don't think the coach is the problem when you're doing that. And I think when you change that kind of a culture and you push things forward, let's face it, a lot of people looked at the Bills and said, man, like Josh Allen's going to have to carry that team because they've made personnel decisions that haven't worked out. They haven't gotten him a superstar young wide receiver. They've had the chances to get those types of players. And listen, they've had some good picks. It's not that the roster is completely empty of talent, but I'm sorry. Putting this on the feet of the coach is ridiculous. Sean McDermott deserved better than this. And I would not be shocked if whoever comes in here, Joe's talking about a roster turnover. I would not be shocked if on top of the roster turnover, with that, if there's a new coach, it's gonna be hard on these Bills for a little bit. Josh Allen might be carrying a team that's not as good anymore and not as in sync. And who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they win the Super Bowl finally because they got rid of Sean McDermott. But to me, he was not the problem in Buffalo. Just like I didn't think Mike Tomlin was the problem in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, man. Most of the people, even Bills fans, all I heard them criticize was how the team and how the roster was constructed, particularly the defense. I never heard anybody really criticize McDermott very much. It was always, he just doesn't. They don't have the bodies, and every single time I turned around, that's what I heard. That's why I picked the Jaguars to beat them easily, because I listen to Bills fans, and I got that information from them. Something else the Chiefs have done is realize they needed to make some changes, but their changes aren't for the future. Their changes is like it's for the future, but it's going back to the past. With a lot of people over the years discounting the contributions of Eric Bieniemy to Andy Reid, you done learn now toughness, the running game, toughness. That's what he represented, and that's what the Chiefs have been missing. And that's exactly what they went and got back by hiring Eric Bieniemy to come back and be their offensive coordinator. Here's Locked On Chiefs to let you know all about it.
It's official. The Kansas City Chiefs have hired Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator. We've been talking about this for the past couple of days, but it seems to be official at this point. Tom Pelissero of NFL Network is reporting the Chiefs have offered Eric Bieniemy the offensive coordinator position. This is a huge get and something that was really surprising to me because I did not think that they would go this direction. I figured that they would be looking at maybe Mike Kafka or some other person that had some experience with Andy Reid. I did not think that they would go back to Eric Bieniemy, but they are going back and hiring him as their offensive coordinator. It's going to be interesting. They have made some other coaching moves around on the offense, and you have to wonder if things are not done on that side of the ball, and they're going to continue making some other changes in that. We will let you know as soon as we hear more. Keep it tuned to Locked On Chiefs, and we will have you covered.
It's just funny to me how a few years ago everybody wanted to go to this new stuff, all of this wide open stuff, and now all of these teams are going back and getting elements of the old stuff, Chris, the stuff that we're used to, the running the football, toughness. If you look at the last, you say it again.
It's a cyclical league. When
is, man.
It goes one way, it's coming back around the other.
It's coming back, and now you look at three of these last four teams; they're known for toughness, and the one that isn't, the Rams. They actually run the ball a whole lot more, and they hit you up front. So this approach by the Chiefs to go back to where they came from, it's what it is in the NFL these days, and I think Bieniemy's going to get the job done.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. One thing that I always noted that I thought was really funny from 2018 to 2022, the 5 years that Eric Bieniemy was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. They were top 5 in either scoring or yards every single year. 3 of those years, they were number 1 in either scoring or yards. 2 of the years, they were number 1 in both. As soon as he left, they were 15th in scoring, 21st in scoring this year. So, and those were the years under Matt Nagy. And I thought it was interesting because when Eric Bieniemy was there, couldn't get no head coaching looks. He wasn't considered an offensive genius. Now Matt Nagy's had 3 not so great seasons as the offensive coordinator. The defense has been the carrying point in his years. They were number 2 in scoring in 2023 when they won the Super Bowl, number 4 in scoring when they lost the Super Bowl in 2024, and number 6 in scoring this year, even as they went 6-11. The offense trailed off as soon as Bieniemy left. And Matt Nagy's now up for head coaching jobs. Eric Bieniemy, though, has had to just bounce around the league without getting opportunities. Maybe there's something we don't see and we don't know about how Eric Bieniemy interviews behind the scenes, but it is just bizarre to me that they were the cream of the crop under Eric Bieniemy, and then as soon as he left, fell off like a crater, like a rock. It was insane to me. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, can he have the instant impact coming right back? They certainly have a lot of rebuilding to do on the offensive side of the ball right now to build around Mahomes. And you also got to wonder, will Mahomes be able to play after his injury this year?
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Toughness is underrated, but toughness, the quarterback shouldn't be the toughest dude on your team because that'll get him in trouble. You got to save him from himself a little bit, and we'll see if that's what happens. All right, to quarterback or not to quarterback in New York, when it comes to the Jets in the second pick, There's only one quarterback being talked about going that early. I'll give you a solution for them, and then tell you where Sean McDermott could be the savior in two places. One of them's in Cleveland. The other one, Las Vegas. We'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper, but they weren't the right fit, you know how important it is to get that right. When your candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed support sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs when you truly want to match your candidate with the job. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, I go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. And I guarantee you, the person I get will be the right one. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. Using Indeed sponsored jobs, listeners of this show get $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. And our show is also sponsored by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take your life over, man. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with local TurboTax experts in person, or you can connect online. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, CC, let's move on to some teams that need to make some more changes in order to get themselves out of the dungeon. We're going to start with the New York Jets. They have the number 2 pick. You know, the Jets had some bad luck one time. That's when they went into the last week, tied with Jacksonville, and then Frank Gore got a certain first down, and Jacksonville ended up with the first pick. They took Trevor Lawrence, and the Jets took somebody else, and it has not worked out. It hasn't worked out a couple of times for them in a lot of ways when it comes to quarterback. Now they have number 2, and Dante Moore decided he was going back to Oregon. So now it's just Fernando Mendoza there, and they got to hope the Raiders want to swap out or don't take Mendoza. I think they ought to go after Malik Willis, but we'll see. John Bushko says maybe they should get a quarterback. Maybe they shouldn't. Check this out.
If you look at the 4 teams that are playing this coming weekend, really only one of them got their quarterback through a high draft pick after a dismal season. That was New England 2 years ago when they stumbled and they ended up with the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft and picked Drake May. It was a good parting gift by Bill Belichick in his final year as Patriots head coach. And now 2 years later, they are on the cusp of the Super Bowl. And I think it's very tempting for Jets fans to look at that model and say, well, that's the only way you can get a good quarterback. You have a terrible season, you get a high draft pick, you pick a quarterback, and everything's okay. Of course, it's not that simple.
Oh, John, let me tell you what John just did. John tried to get slick, man, just in case they don't take a quarterback number 1. First of all, John, 3 of those quarterbacks were not picked by the team that they're playing for, but all 4 of them were number one draft picks. Not number one overall, but they were first round draft picks, including Sam Darnold, who I believe got picked by the New York Jets. So the Jets are a part of this equation, whether they want to realize it or not. I say Malik Willis, man, go get you a dude that's run around and played some ball a little bit. Now, Chris, you might want him up there in Pittsburgh, but that's the way I go if I were the Jets, to try to just get out of this dungeon, and I wouldn't reach for a young guy.
Yeah, especially because I don't believe in Ty Simpson. He's the next guy on a lot of people's boards, for as far as quarterback, and I just don't see him as the future right now. He didn't show that to me this year. So if I'm the Jets, I'm trying to build my roster a bit more until I get to a really good quarterback class or a place where I know I can get it, or if I think I can trade up and get Fernando Mendoza and he is going to be the savior. But yeah, going with Simpson is not the move. But to his point, man, I think he made one thing I pointed out, because a lot of people in Pittsburgh think that, we need to tank for a season. We'll tank for a season and we'll draft our next Ben Roethlisberger and everything will be fine. And one thing I point out is that the last 7 MVP award winners are between 4 quarterbacks: Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson twice, Patrick Mahomes twice, and Aaron Rodgers twice. None of those quarterbacks were selected in the top 3 or 5 from teams that tanked. In fact, all but Lamar Jackson were drafted by teams that made the playoffs the previous year, and Lamar Jackson was the 32nd pick overall. So it's not some guaranteed formula. Also, the year in which the Patriots drafted Drake May came off of Bill Belichick's final year after they did oust him. So, I'm right here to say, Wig, that don't just drafting a quarterback high ain't the solution. You got to keep building. I think the Jets' problem is they can't get on a foundation. Aaron Glenn didn't exactly have a good start. Robert Saleh, who didn't have a good tenure. They haven't been able to catch any traction. And so, lately they've been investing in the trenches. They got Will McDonald, in 2023, Olu Fashanu in 2024, Armand Membao in 2025. It's defense, offense, and offense in the trenches. They've also brought in guys like Joe Tippmann, Carter Warren, all guys like that. They've got young guys in the trenches. Maybe keep building those up so you can be a team that can just push people around. And that if you get a Malik Willis, they don't have to work as much because you're able to run the ball a bit more. But I always believe, if you don't think that this is the quarterback, don't go get the quarterback. And it's the same rule for every position. Don't draft a player just because you feel like you got to draft to that position. Draft the player that you think is the best on the board and gives you the best chance to win with them. Because when you start drafting for need, that's when you miss. That's when your talent evaluations go out the window. And if you're wrong in your talent evaluations, that's one thing. But if you do all the work to scout these players, you determine that player really ain't the guy, but you still go with him because you're just desperate, then you're going against your own process. That's what teams often fall into the pit of. I think that's what the Steelers fell into the pit of in the late 2010s when they had several misses between guys like Terrell Edmonds, guys like Devin Bush, guys like Chase Claypool. I think that they were trying to draft to help Ben Roethlisberger win in the moment and thinking, we just get this position right. We just get this position right. We'll be good. And that put them in a hole where they didn't have guys stepping up along with TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick in the recent years. And I think that's led to the situation they're in now that they're trying to rebuild with. And now they're picking players for value, and their offensive lines pretty much rebuilt. Their defensive lines being rebuilt. That's what the Jets have to do. That's what most teams need to do. I think if the Jets try to force a pick at quarterback and forego the development that they need to go through, they're going to put themselves in an even deeper hole than they already are.
The Browns took 2 quarterbacks in the draft last year. Shedeur Sanders outplayed Dylan Gabriel by a mile, in my opinion. But what we think doesn't matter. What a future coach of that team thinks does matter. Do you go with Shedeur? Are they going to, if you don't want to do it, are they going to force you to do it up there? When I say they, I mean Andrew Berry and that crew. I don't know who was right and who was wrong in the situation. Sean McDermott would be a good foundational coach for them, because you've seen what he does in Buffalo, and he'll get a lot of wrongs righted in Cleveland. Here's my man, Spencer German.
I think of building a new culture and establishing a new culture in Cleveland. McDermott can take what Stefanski started, build upon it, take it to the next level. And even if that level isn't the Super Bowl quite yet, just to get in the conversation and be in the club is a huge step for this organization.
If I'm McDermott and I have a choice between Las Vegas and Cleveland, I'm going to Las Vegas. We'll take Mendoza number 1. I'll go with him and we'll figure out the rest of it, and I'll set my culture out there. Because I don't know what Cleveland's got going on, man, with how they feel about the quarterback. Once again, video strikes again, man. You got the owner sitting there saying he ain't want to take the kid. And these owners are going to learn to be quiet when it comes to that kind of stuff. But in this case, I'm glad they did, because now we may see who really likes Shador and who doesn't.
Beyond Shador, man, I'm sorry. Like, I get that, for Cleveland, McDermott would be a great hire. He completely flipped around Buffalo's losing history, made them perennial playoff contenders, got them into the dance all the time, and I'm sure they'd love to have him. But if I'm McDermott, why the heck would I go to Cleveland? And why would I go for the Raiders? That for that matter, I'd be calling up the Baltimore Ravens. I'd be like, hey, man, you got a franchise quarterback. I just lost a franchise quarterback. You got some key playmakers. I'm trying to build some key play. Let's go to this franchise that just gave a guy 17 years who won a Super Bowl and figured some things out. I'm not going to the Browns, who've had 4 losing seasons in the last 5 years, who have had 2 winning seasons dating back to 2008. So like that's I'm not trying to. I just fixed one whole franchise. I'm not trying to fix another. I'm trying to win, man. I'm tired of digging up through the dirt. If I'm Sean McDermott, I'm like, nah, man, put me somewhere that's already got it going on. Get me a place that I don't have to rebuild culture, that I can come in and we can try to stack. Because I feel like if I'm Sean McDermott, I've paid my dues of lifting up the bad team and the bad franchise. So yeah, that's I feel him. I feel Spencer, and he's right. Sean McDermott would be great for them. I don't think Sean McDermott should go there. If I'm him, I'm picking where I think I can I can compete right now and stack on something that's already there.
See, you told me something I didn't think about. Look, they're gonna buy in Baltimore too, because you walk in and this is the dude that beat you a couple of times.
Yep.
That's one thing, and then the other thing, you'll be like, "Hey, Lamar, come here. Let me tell you what we did. I know those games were close, but here's what we tried to do. And now, as your coach, I'm not gonna let people do that to you. I'm not going to put you in that position. There could be a lot of credibility. Look at that. Chris Carter, you put me up on something. And now I'm going to take that narrative and run with it like I created it. Y'all can do the same thing, man. Take what we say here on Locked On and act like you created it. Own it. Own it. You got to be a part of the Everydayers Club, though. That's right, the Everydayers Club, man. You get a little extra there. Nice merchandise like this Locked On shirt I have on for as little as $5. And you also get stuff like ad-free versions of our audio shows. Make sure you click into your favorite Locked On podcast down in the description, wherever you watch or listen, and you can be a part of the Everydayers Club for that show. All right, Chris Carter's going to go get to it. I am too here. Tony Wiggins, man, we don't take you for granted. We're glad you spent some time with us here today. We'll see you next time on Locked On NFL.